Describe a website you often visit, you should say. What it is about, how you found out about it, how often you visit it, and explain why you often visit it.
Okay. So for this Banny 8 response, my focus was really uncovering all the points on the card clearly, giving examples, aiming for good flow, solid vocabulary, nothing too fancy but accurate, clears throat slightly. One website that I often visit is YouTube. As everyone knows, it's a video sharing platform where you can find content on almost any topic, from cooking and travel to technology and education. I actually came across YouTube during my college days when some of my friends suggested I use it to learn English through short videos and movie clips. At first, I just used it for fun, like watching music videos or comedy sketches, but over time, I realized it's an amazing tool for gaining knowledge as well. I would say I visit it almost every day, usually in the evenings. I watch tutorials when I want to learn something quickly, for example, editing photos or improving my speaking skills. The main reason I often visit the website is because it's so convenient and diverse. Instead of reading long articles, I can easily watch a 10-minute video and understand the topic. Also, the recommendation system is very useful because it shows me videos related to my interests. For me, YouTube is both entertainment and education, and that's why it has become a part of my daily routine.
Thank you. We've been talking about a website you often visit. Now, let's broaden our perspective a bit, discuss some more general questions related to this. What are the most popular and least popular apps in India?
In India, the most popular apps are definitely WhatsApp, YouTube, and Instagram. People use them for, communication, entertainment, staying updated with friends. It's pretty widespread. On the other hand, I think the least popular apps are maybe paid news apps or niche services that not everyone needs, like investment apps for a smaller audience. For example, villagers or older people may not use stock market apps, but almost everyone has WhatsApp.
Okay. And what's the difference between the internet and television?
The biggest difference is that the internet is interactive, while television is, well, one-way communication. With TV, you can only watch what is broadcast, right? But on the internet, you can choose your content anytime you want. For example, if I want to watch a cricket match's highlights, I can search for them online whenever, but on TV, I have to wait until they are shown, if they're shown at all.
Right. Why do some people like to read news on the internet instead of getting it from TV?
I think the internet is faster and more personalized too. On TV, news is broadcast at fixed times. You have to wait for the program. But on the internet, you can read updates instantly on your phone, like right away. For example, if there is breaking news about an election, I can see it immediately on Twitter or a news app instead of waiting for the evening bulletin. Much faster.
Are libraries still necessary? Why?
Yes, I think libraries are still necessary, even though people use the internet a lot these days. Libraries are quiet places for studying, that's important, and they provide access to books that might not be available online or might be behind a paywall. For example, in my university, the library had rare printed journals that students couldn't find anywhere else. So yeah, I think they continue to play an important role.
Okay. And what kinds of people would still go to the library to read and study?
Usually, students and researchers are the main visitors, I'd say. They need access to detailed academic resources and, that peaceful learning environment. Libraries provide that. Sometimes older people also go because they enjoy reading physical newspapers, or maybe they just prefer physical books over digital screens. For instance, I often saw retired people in the local library when I was younger. It was a community spot for them too.
Makes sense. Lastly, for this section, what are the differences between old people and young people when they use the internet?
Well, young people generally use the internet for social media, entertainment, learning new things. They're often quite engaged online. Older people, on the other hand, they tend to use it more for basic communication, like video calls with family or maybe online banking, practical stuff. For example, my parents mostly use WhatsApp to chat with family, but my younger brother spends hours on Instagram and online gaming. So usage patterns really depend on age, I think. Quite different priorities.
Okay, wow. That was an excellent demonstration of a Band-Aid response. Really clear, well-structured, and you used good examples throughout. From your perspective, actually delivering that, what aspects do you feel really made it a solid Band-Aid?
Well, the main thing was hitting all the points, covering the cue card, answering each part 3 question fully. Providing those relevant examples is key. It shows you can develop your ideas. And maintaining fluency, keeping it coherent. Lexically, Vocabulary-wise, I aimed for a good range of everyday words used correctly. Like in part 2, using video sharing platform is precise. And came across, that's a common natural phrasal verb meaning to discover by chance. Good solid language.
Yeah, I noticed comedy sketches too, and describing YouTube as a tool for gaining knowledge. Specific, accurate vocabulary there. And in part 3, mentioning niche services or usage patterns, that shows a decent range, doesn't it?
Exactly. Comedy sketches is better than just saying funny videos, more specific. And calling YouTube an amazing tool for gaining knowledge adds a slightly more, maybe considered tone to it. For part 3, yeah, niche services pinpoints a specific market type, shows understanding. And usage patterns is a really good phrase for describing how different groups use the internet. Precise. Even simple things like convenient and diverse in part 2, it gets the point across effectively without being overly complex. It's about clear communication at this level.
Great points. So Band-Aid, clear, logical, good vocabulary, used well, very strong. Okay, now let's push it. Let's aim for Band 9. Everyone listening, pay close attention now to the differences, those subtle shifts in word choice, maybe more complex ideas, the flow, how it all comes together for that top band. Same part 2 key card for you again. Describe a website you often visit, you should say. What it is about, how you found out about it, how often you visit it, and explain why you often visit it.
Okay, band 9. So here, the goal is demonstrating more than just fluency. It's about showcasing a sophisticated vocabulary range, using less common words or idioms naturally, and maybe elaborating on ideas with a bit more precision, using more complex sentences where it feels natural, not forced, right? Takes a breath. One website I frequently visit is Coursera. It's essentially an online learning platform which offers, gosh, thousands of courses across a whole spectrum of subjects: data science, business, psychology, you name it. I first discovered it, actually, when I was looking for ways to enhance my digital skills during the pandemic lockdown. A colleague recommended it, quite enthusiastically, in fact, and I was immediately fascinated by the sheer variety of high-quality courses available, many from top-tier universities. I suppose I use the site maybe 2 or 3 times a week. Typically, I'll log in after work, perhaps spend about an hour watching lectures or engaging with materials, and then work on any assignments or quizzes. The reason I keep returning to Coursera is primarily because it offers such a flexible yet structured way to acquire new skills without the constraints of attending physical classes. It allows me to learn entirely at my own pace, which is crucial. And I also find the certificates they offer genuinely useful for, well, career advancement. Another significant factor, I think, is motivation. When you see thousands of other learners enrolled in the same course from all over the world, it really does feel like being part of a global classroom. It's quite stimulating. Overall, I'd say this website has had a pretty significant impact on both my personal growth and my professional trajectory.
Thank you. We've been talking about a website you often visit. Now let's consider some more general questions related to this topic as before. What are the most popular and least popular apps in India?
Well, India is incredibly diverse, as you know, and its app usage certainly reflects that diversity. Unsurprisingly, the most popular apps tend to be communication and entertainment platforms. Things like WhatsApp, YouTube, Instagram dominate, as they cater to literally billions of users across all age groups. We're also seeing educational apps, like Bijus, for instance, gaining significant traction, particularly among students and parents. On the flip side, the least popular apps, they tend to be those that cater to a very small niche market. For example, maybe high-end fitness tracking apps or luxury shopping platforms. These mainly target specific urban demographics and don't have that mass appeal.
Okay. And what's the difference between the internet and television?
The fundamental difference, I believe, lies in control and accessibility. Television offers scheduled programming, right? Viewers essentially consume content passively, whereas the internet empowers users. It gives them the freedom to choose what they engage with, when they engage with it, and how. So, for example, instead of waiting for the scheduled evening news bulletin on TV, I could instantly stream a live press conference on YouTube or a news site. This inherent flexibility and the potential for two-way interaction make the internet a far more dynamic medium, in my opinion.
Why do some people like to read news on the internet instead of getting it from TV?
People often prefer online news because it's instant, it's customizable, and it's interactive. Those are the key advantages, I think. Unlike television, which adheres to a rigid schedule, online platforms provide real-time notifications. They allow readers to filter topics according to their specific interests. So, a cricket enthusiast, for example, can choose to follow only sports headlines, while someone else might want continuous updates just on politics. That level of personalization isn't really possible with traditional TV. Plus, online news articles usually link to multiple sources, images, sometimes even user comments or citizen journalism, which can provide much richer context compared to television's often brief, self contained reports.
Are libraries still necessary? Why?
Oh, I strongly believe libraries remain incredibly relevant. Absolutely. Though their role has certainly evolved. In our digital age, they no longer function solely as book repositories, you see. They've transformed into vital community learning hubs. These hubs provide access to both physical and digital resources for students, researchers, the general public, everyone. For instance, many modern libraries offer ebook lending, access to expensive academic databases, and even workshops on things like digital literacy, which is so important now. So while the traditional image of a library might be changing, its core purpose, promoting knowledge and access to information, remains firmly intact, perhaps even more crucial.
And following on from that, what kinds of people would still go to the library to read and study?
Primarily, I'd say academics, students, and serious researchers continue to rely heavily on libraries. They often require access to specialized texts, archives, or journals that simply aren't freely available online or are prohibitively expensive. At the same time, you'll still find elderly people, perhaps those who aren't entirely comfortable with digital tools or who simply prefer the tangible experience of reading a physical book or newspaper. For instance, my own grandfather thoroughly enjoys spending time at the community library. He reads the daily paper there, interacts with friends. It's a social space for him, too.
Right. And finally, what are the differences between old people and young people when they use the internet?
The contrast is quite stark, actually. Young people tend to engage with the internet far more creatively and socially. They're highly active on social media platforms, they consume vast amounts of entertainment on streaming services, and they often interact with technology in innovative ways. Think content creation, online gaming communities, things like that.
Yeah.
Older people, on the other hand, generally restrict their usage to more practical applications. Things like contacting family through video calls, managing online banking, maybe making essential purchases. For example, my mother mainly uses the internet to pay bills or occasionally buy something specific online. Whereas my younger cousin, he runs a small YouTube channel and spends hours exploring new apps and online trends. So, while both generations clearly benefit from the internet, their underlying purposes and, frankly, their comfort levels differ markedly.
That was,
Yeah.
yeah, incredible. An amazing demonstration of a Band 9 response. You can really, really hear the difference. That sophistication, the depth. What jumps out at you immediately, reflecting on that performance compared to the Band 8 one?
Well, the first thing is the vocabulary precision and range. And not just using fancy words, but using them appropriately to get across more nuanced ideas. So, like in part two, saying frequently visit instead of often visit, it's a small shift, but slightly more formal, maybe more precise. Then, online learning platform is more specific than just a website. In high quality courses, that's a natural qualification that signals a better vocabulary. But I think the key was moving beyond just listing features like convenient and diverse in the Band-Aid to evaluating the approach or philosophy behind it, like using flexible, structured way. That phrase captures the balance between freedom and organization, showing a deeper understanding.
Yeah, I thought that was great. And the phrase global classroom, that really painted a picture, very effective. And words like career advancement and significant impact, they definitely add a more analytical, almost professional tone. How did you approach part 3 differently for the Band 9?
For part three, the aim was definitely more complex, more analytical answers, trying to dig a bit deeper. For instance, discussing popular apps, using a verb like cater to, meaning to provide for a specific need that's more sophisticated than just saying people use them for.
Right.
And contrasting that with niche market for the less popular ones demonstrates a bit more, maybe economic awareness. When comparing the internet and TV, the Band 9 response started with the fundamental difference and focused on concepts like control and accessibility. That goes beyond the Band 8's simpler interactive versus one-way. Using terms like consume content passively and two-way interaction, these are more precise, almost academic terms that just elevate the whole discussion.
I really liked how you handled the library question in the Band 9 version. That shift from just book repositories to community learning hubs. What made you choose that angle? It felt very insightful.
Good question. Well, the Band-Aid answer is perfectly fine. Libraries are quiet places with books. But for Band 9, you want to show you can discuss how things change, how concepts evolve. So framing it as an evolution from a simple repository to a dynamic community learning hub,
Yeah.
and mentioning things like digital literacy, it shows a more current, more nuanced grasp of the library's role today. It demonstrates you can handle abstract ideas in their societal context. And using a phrase like tangible experience for why some prefer physical books again, it's just a more refined vocabulary choice.
Definitely. And the final question, old versus young internet use. Again, great distinctions there. Content creation versus practical uses. And ending with comfort levels differ markedly.
So,
Very precise.
yes, starting with the contrast is quite stark, sets the tone. Then identifying something specific, like content creation, as an innovative use by the young, and concluding with comfort levels differ markedly, it sums up the difference succinctly and uses strong collocation. It's all about deploying that higher level language naturally and accurately to build a more sophisticated picture, not just knowing words, but using them effectively.
So what's the big takeaway here for you, our listener? We've gone through these two simulations, Band 8, Band 9. We've pulled apart the vocabulary. And the key thing, as you just heard, isn't just about dropping big words in. Not at all. It's about using the right words, precisely, naturally, to really convey deeper meaning, a more nuanced view. It's about choosing your language strategically to express complex ideas clearly.
Absolutely. And if you zoom out a bit, connect this to the bigger picture of language learning. It really shows that true mastery isn't just memorizing lists of vocabulary. It's about developing that agility, that flexibility to select the most impactful word for that specific moment, that context, and then weaving those words into something coherent, sophisticated, persuasive, which really leads to a question for you, doesn't it? How can you actively start integrating some of these phrases, these approaches, into your own speaking practice? How do you move from just recognizing them to actually using them, whether it's for an exam or just in your daily conversations?
That is a fantastic thought to end on, a real call to action. We really hope this deep dive has given you some powerful tools, some concrete insights for your own language journey. Hopefully, you feel a bit more equipped to articulate your ideas with greater clarity and sophistication. Keep practicing, keep listening, keep pushing your boundaries. We look forward to our next deep dive.